everyone, welcome back. In this session, we're going to talk about what if we have to take some input from the user. Like what if I have to ask the user to provide me with certain value. So this we can do by making use of a function called input. Okay. And similar to your print and type function, even input function is predefined in Python. Okay. So let's write the heading. Taking input from the user using input function. Okay, let's understand the use case. So let's say you want to take some value as input from the user and you want to store it in some variable a. So you will say a equals to simply input. As you can see, similar to print, it also turned to some color called yellow. Okay. It can differ from compiler to compiler. Okay. Now if you run this, interestingly, this will give you this dialog box and it will keep running until and unless you have not given it some input and hit enter. Okay, so for example, if I give input as 4 and I hit enter, okay, as you can see, now it has stopped. Interestingly, if I print a, this will print 4 onto the screen. Simple, interesting, right? So whatever input you give, it will print that onto the screen. But something very interesting happens here. Okay, for that, let's take an example. Suppose you want to write a code to take two numbers as input from the user and print the sum of them, or print their sum. Okay. So let's see how we'll do it. So basically we need to take two numbers as input from the user. So we'll say a equals to not input and b equals to input, and then we'll simply print a plus b, right? Okay. So first let me only take input and then we'll do later. So now it will ask me for input 2 times. So first let's say 4, this will be given to a, and as you can see, this green is now pointing to b, stating that b is ready to take some input. So let's say 5. I hit enter. Okay. So now if I print a, this is having 4, and if I print b, this is having 5. Interesting? Everything clear? But now if I do print a plus b, which is the sum, right? Let's see what happens. Run this. I get 45. So you will be wondering, in which maths, in which world 4 plus 5 is 45, right? So here something interesting happens. If you check the type, if you dive deep and if you check the type of the variable a, it is actually string. It is actually string. That means whatever number you give input to a, which is 4, it is actually being stored as string. Did you know that? No. We thought that it is an integer. What is the important thing to learn here? That whatever input you give to input function, it will be by default considered as string. Okay. So that's why if you also check the type of b, even though it is 5, but it is text 5. It is text 5. Okay. But sir, but AJ, why 45? Okay. So actually, here comes the concept of string concatenation. What is string concatenation? Suppose you have two strings, let's say Adi and Jain. Okay, and let's call it Aditya. And if you try to add two strings, it performs string concatenation. As you can see, it's a single string, Aditya space Jain. Why space? Because of this space. Okay. So this concept called string concatenation or string combining of two strings. Okay. Why 45? Because what actually happened is 4 text plus 5, and when you run this, it will become 45 as a single text string concatenation. Okay. Now, how do we deal with this? How can we overcome this? Okay, let's take an example. So I have a very beautiful example to explain you this. So there is a function called int, okay, which is used to convert string to int if valid. What is if valid? Let's understand. Okay. So suppose I say a equals to int of 4. Okay. Now why I said if valid? Because 4 is a valid number. So when I say int of string value 4, it will actually convert it to integer and will store it in a. So if I print a, it is 4. But how do we confirm? You guessed it right. You will check type of a, which is integer, int. Okay, unlike previous case where it was by default. Okay. Now, what is an invalid case? Suppose you do a equals to int Aditya. Okay. Now, is Aditya a valid object to be converted to an integer? It doesn't make sense. Okay. So if you run this, it will give you value error. Again, one type of error that will understand moving forward. Okay. It's an error given to you by Python stating that this is invalid code. Okay. What is error? Error is some invalid code. Okay. So now, combining all these concepts, suppose if we have to take integer as input from the user, we combine these concepts. What do? We say a equals to input, but whatever input I'll get, it will be text. So I will write int, and then within it I'll write input. Okay, what will happen if I run this? Suppose I enter 4 and I hit enter. This 4 is taken as string, and then it is typecasted or converted to an integer and then stored in a. Now when I print a, it will be 4. But when I check type of a, it will actually be an integer. Okay, so coming back to the question, how can we solve this? Take two numbers and print the sum of them. Okay, how can we solve it? So simply I write solution. Okay, a equals to int input, b equals to int input. Okay, and then I'll say print a plus b. So let's print a plus b later. Let's run this. So 4 and 5. This time no surprises. Okay, so now if you print a plus b, it will actually be 9. Why? Because both are typecasted to integers. Okay, so this is a very interesting discussion on input function and how you can typecast it to valid numbers, which is float, int. Okay, with this we are done with this topic. Let's move on to the next.